Okay. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adult Child of Dysfunction. Today we have with us Helen Ngo, and she is a speaker, a writer, sparking honest conversations about loss, grief, and healing. After sudden loss shattered her world, she numbed the pain through independence, workaholism, and perfectionism until therapy cracked her hardened shell. Now she helps others find their path from pain to purpose through her writing and monthly meetups. How you doing, Helen?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Tammy.
Oh, I just stopped the recording. Hold on. I don't know why I did that. Okay. Love technology, right?
All good. Hey,
Yeah. So
just
you're doing all right today?
hey, yeah, I'm doing great.
Good. Well, we had a good conversation the first time we talked, so I'm actually very excited to talk to you today about, well, I mean, who's excited to talk about trauma and loss and grief? But
Yeah.
I actually just had another podcast this morning and it was on grief, ironically.
Mm.
And I want to hear your perspective because I know you've been doing what you do for a long time, haven't you?
I've been writing for a long time, but more recently I've been publishing and making it more public and speaking up about this topic because I don't know, lately I just feel like there's a lot of, it feels like good and evil in the world is battling each other, and there's just a lot of pain. And just going through my own significant life changes has made me more confident in myself and challenging myself to step out and say, you know what, I don't want to be the only one. I can't be the only one who's feeling this way. With grief and major losses that I've had in my life and how I've completely zombied for the last 20 years of my life to get to where I am.
And I love that you say zombied out because that's literally, I feel like what people do. They shut
Yeah.
everything down and you're just kind of walking through and kind of just going through the emotions and you're just not really ever stepping out into that joy because you just got so much suppressed and repressed and just in you that it's just dragging you down. I-
Tammy, I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't even know I was suppressing anything. I didn't even know I was suppressing. I didn't even think that I was avoiding anything. Because in my mind, I had built a career and, just to give some backstory, when I was 17, I had lost a boyfriend right in my senior year of high school. And from there, I just went right on to college, right on, like just checking off all the boxes without ever really sitting back and reflecting on the pain I had just experienced and the traumatic loss I had just experienced. I had wanted to paint myself and put myself out there into the world as a strong, independent individual because those were the values that I was raised up with by my mom. Never to cry, or if I did cry, you better stop crying because it makes the other person uncomfortable. But at the time, I'm like, oh, crying is weak. That's how I understood it to be. And so that's why I didn't even realize that I was suppressing anything until it builds up like a giant volcano and then it affects all the relationships around you and it permeates and how I interacted with a lot of the individuals around my life, built and burnt a lot of bridges, not on purpose, just how I was carrying myself through life, you know?
Right. And just the fact that, I mean, when you do not deal with something that big of a loss, I mean, think about how scared you're going into your next relationships, how somewhat detached you're going to be because you're not, I mean, if you don't go through the grieving process and know how to really manipulate that and navigate that, it's like how do you really fully open up to those next couple people?
That's such a great question. Same with friendships in any relationship and dealing with coworkers. And, I own my own business now and dealing with my team, any type of conflict that comes up, it makes me feel out of control, as if something bad happens. And I was very snappy at people, very short fused. And I had operated that way for, a, like I said, like 20 plus years because I never dealt with my losses. After my boyfriend had died, like 8 years after that, my niece passed away suddenly. And then after that, my best friend passed away suddenly. And so it just kept piling on top of one another. And I felt like at the same time, I was angry at the world. I just wasn't emotionally developed enough to even see that's how I was dealing and caring about my life.
It, this is a crazy question, but was there one person that called you out? Did somebody
My
finally say,
therapist. Yeah,
okay,
he's like my therapist. He's like, well, why are you acting this way? Why are you treating your teammates like an asshole? you know?
right,
And it made me really sit back and reflect, and I could come up with all the excuses. Oh, they misspelled this client's name or blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, what's really underlying all of that? Like, why are you
right.
snappy at people? Like, what is the threat in the room when somebody makes a mistake? And I was like taken aback by that when somebody calls me out.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of you or else if nobody called you out, you would have been going through it forever. And then that's the hardest part of healing is starting the self-reflection process. Like, what did I take part in this? I mean, I know I was hurt. I know it because then you open up, you can figure out kind of why. I mean, that's what I tell people. You have to be aware of your patterns and you have to be aware and but it's not always easy. You didn't know that. You didn't, unless you had a best friend that was like, "Why are you being such a biatch?" Like, what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, I think through like I have a couple of really good friends who've been with me for a long time, and they know my personality. I have one friend, she called me a sea urchin. Like on the outside, I'm super spiky, but inside, I'm like a soft, gentle soul that's waiting to come out. And I really truly operated like that, where I had a lot of self protection going on that I like walls, like really my therapist called it, I was so hardened. My shell was so hardened and spiky to keep all the threats away from me that could hurt me, heartbreak, from the loss of my boyfriend. I prevented myself at the time, I didn't even realize this. And going back to what you mentioned about relationships, I was so worried about getting close with anybody because I was so afraid of losing them. And so
yeah,
I think that contributed to how I interacted with people too. When there's any type of conflict that would come up, I would deflect or project back my pain onto them and blame them for something. And, at the end of the day, I really had to take a hard look at myself when my own personal marriage started to fall apart. And that's when I took therapy more seriously, my fifth therapist. And this one I didn't write off because I was literally at my knees, Tammy, uh,
yeah.
being super miserable with how I turned out in life.
Mm. And was there everybody has kind of, well, not everybody, a lot of people have that defining moment, like that aha moment where this is enough. Like, I can't do this anymore. Did you have a moment like that?
I had several moments like that. The one that really stands out to me was when I had children. And I would take the disappointment and anger from, besides my past traumas, like in my relationship that I had with my spouse, and I would yell at my kids for no reason. At the time, it was no reason, right? Now I understood it to be I was super stressed, very anxious, and I took out my anger on them.
Right.
And I could see how one time it really scared my son when I raised my voice at him. And that was when I was like, oh my gosh, I really need help. Like this is not okay. I didn't grow up in a household where my mom and dad yelled at me like that. And so that really, that and several other instances really shook me up and said, you need to go see somebody for real. Like you really need to go get help.
It's funny how kids can be that defining moment. I remember one time we had a Christmas party and my parents were both alcoholics and it's not that I was like this chronic drinker, but when I would
Mhm.
go out and party, I would drink too much. And I remember we had a Christmas party at my father-in-law's house and my son was maybe 7 or 8 and we had all been drinking and he came up to me and he shook his head and he said, "Mommy, I do not like this version of you."
Oh, wow.
And he's like, "I don't like this at all." And I said, "What do you mean, honey?" And I was like laughing and joking. He's like, I don't like this when you drink like this. And
Oh
he
my
was
God.
7 or 8 years old. And it was so like, ugh, like it was that gut punch. But then it was like, okay, time to start really reevaluating what's going on here. But I mean, it's easy because you care about what kids think of you. If an adult, had said that to me, I might have been like, screw you.
Exactly. Yes. If like if a friend would say that, I'm like, oh, I'll just brush it off, or my
Mhm.
coworkers, because I'm a decision maker. I've traded in my, I'm at the top. I make all the executive decisions in my company. And so nobody really calls me out. And then my relationship, same thing. We call each other out, but we're like arguing. And so really there was nobody else to hold the mirror up until a little kid, my own son, at the time he was like 2.5 maybe, where I could see the fear and like pure, like he was so scared of me that I really
Mm,
looked back
mhm.
and was like, oh my gosh, this is not I don't like who I am.
Right,
I
right,
don't like who I am at this moment. I don't like who I have become. Something's gotta change.
right.
Something's wrong with me, you know.
But you're not broken. And to the people out there listening, she's not broken, see? And I know, but
Yeah.
that's how you feel. You feel this just, like I just don't know. You feel horrible about yourself. And then to have a child say something like that or to be scared of you, that guilt and shame. So if you're out there listening and your child has said something and really put you in check, don't beat yourself up about it. I mean, hopefully, you listen and listen to what they're saying, but know that they also see the growth in you when you change. So for the people out
Yeah.
there listening, that is very important too. Like your
Yeah.
child probably has never been afraid of you anymore.
No, after I changed my environment, that was a huge thing that happened
Hmm.
through my therapy. I had gone to him and that was the one connection that I needed. Like I was really desperate and I didn't even realize it, but I was really hungry for somebody to just listen to me
Hmm.
and hear me out and not give me advice for once, like just listen and give me an emotional hug. In a
Right,
way.
right,
You know what I mean? And like you said, I felt like I was broken, and he said, "No, there's nothing wrong with you." I really went to him thinking I needed medication or something, and he's like, "No, Helen, change your environment first, and let's see where you are, and if that helps at all." And long story short, that's what I did in order to clean up my environment to be in a place where things are quiet. It's not as my environment. I'm not living in a combustible environment where I'm stepping on eggshells every day or feel like I'm walking on
right,
eggshells every day to really sit back and reflect quietly without interruption.
right. No, that's important. And that walking on eggshells, if you're in a sense, like in a place of discomfort or just uneasiness in your life in general and you're in an environment where you feel like everything you say you're tiptoeing around or anything that
Yeah.
the ball could drop at any moment, that is a horrible way to live.
It was so horrible. I mean, and it
Uh-huh.
contributed to it influenced how I interacted with everybody around me. Like I was just so short fused, and it
Hmm.
was very tiring to be so hyper vigilant like that all the time and literally living in survival mode 24/7 of fight or flight.
No, yes, and a lot of the people that are listening on this podcast can completely resonate with that because that's what we talk about. It's that trauma. A lot of people had it when they were children. A lot of people, like you said, it started when you were 17 and then consecutive people in your life passing trauma after trauma after trauma. And I always say, it doesn't matter if it's a big T trauma, which all of those were, or it's a bunch of little T traumas. If it
Mhm.
changes the way you look at the world and you react to the world, it's trauma and it needs to be unpacked, period.
Yeah, my view of the world, from 17 on was this is unfair. Like
Mhm.
life can be taken, you think that everything is dandy and everybody moves on without you. That's what it felt like.
Mm,
The world moves on without you. A sense of loneliness during that time period. And, what I resorted to was, like you introduced me, just workaholism, because that's what
yeah.
I was really good at. I did work and I measured worth and productivity because that kept me connected to the people that I cared about in my life. But I wasn't, there was a speckle of me that always wondered how much I mattered to people
Mm,
that I loved, you know. Uh,
right. And being that the trauma it seems like that you went through was not on your side, like it wasn't people directly doing things to you. It was things that are happening to you, like, having the death and stuff like that. Where do you think in your mind that that feeling of kind of unworthiness, which is the basis of trauma, where do you think that came from? Just curious.
that's a really great question because at the time I felt like I had a really great family and support system. And when my boyfriend died, I realized that wasn't really there. Like my own family wasn't equipped to
Mm,
deal with me and what I had just experienced. And so what I resorted to was just to go inward, to go to
okay.
retreat. The people around me that I thought I could rely on for help wasn't very helpful. It was just like temporary bandages, like the same, oh, it's all in God's plan and
All
all
those
these
cliches that
mantras.
you
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's in God's plan. I'm like, it's in God's plan for my boyfriend to die suddenly, and I didn't get to say goodbye. And so it's just like anger started to
Mhm.
fester. And I grew
Yep.
up Catholic, and that was the first time where I questioned God
Hmm.
at 17. And like you said, my whole world completely changed in what I believed in and who I relied on. And I really felt like I didn't have the support system that I had thought I had.
Right. And so your trauma is literally that non-validation. It really is what it is. And so your voice doesn't matter. It's the same as the childhood trauma that people are out there listening to. It's the same thing.
I
It's
felt
it's
so
ab-
insignificant when it happened too,
mhm.
because they're like, oh, you're so young, you have your whole life ahead of you, so you're gonna meet somebody else, like you'll get over it.
Yeah.
So I was waiting for myself to get over it. And the
Right.
way of getting over it was to work. I just became more independent and reliant on myself. Um, and so that was really what I had to learn and go back and visit about that time period in my life to be like, oh my goodness, like who do I want to be if I encounter somebody who's experiencing that? Like I have teenage nieces and nephews, like if something like that happened to them, I hope I can be there for them and not
Right.
feel dismissed.
Right. Right. So that they don't feel like they don't have anybody and nobody to turn
Correct.
to.
Correct.
So so if there's people out there listening, and I know there are that kind of feel alone and dismissed and everything else, I mean, what would you tell them? What would be your suggestion or advice?
That's a great question because different things work for different people. At the time, and even now, what has stayed consistent with me the entire time period is writing in my journal and
Mm,
really sitting down and putting my thoughts on paper. That was what held my emotions. And, I have volumes and volumes of journals that I've looked back on just to go and reflect. So that's one thing one simple action that somebody can do to put things in motion of like, okay, I'm doing something. I'm writing a thought down. Just one, even if it's just one sentence a day, like
yep.
I'm angry today. Like just write down what you are feeling in the moment at that moment.
And
Uh,
they say there's so much power in the putting it to written words, to that there's so much of the synapses rewiring when you're talking through things, and just there's so much magic that happens in that journaling. My one regret, well, it's not my one regret. I have a couple more regrets, but I was always my journals were always read. I started writing when I was a very young child, and I would
yeah.
journal and journal, and then my mom would find it. Didn't matter how many locks I had on those diaries, she would read them, and then I would get beat for what I wrote, and I still to this day I journal for a while and then I crumple it up and throw it away. And I think it became a habit. It was like my cleansing. Like I journal for a while and then I just get rid of it. Like burn it, put it in a river. When I was little, I used to rip up my papers after I wrote them and put them in a river and like watch them float away. Like, oh, there goes all my bad stuff.
Wow.
But it's almost really saddening that I'm like, oh my God, I'm 57 and I've journaled thousands and thousands of hours, and I really don't. I have like two journals to show for it.
Hey, that's how you release it.
And yeah, I mean, and so I'm just like, oh, I wish I could go back and
Yeah.
have them. You know what I mean? But it's like that
Yeah.
was I knew. So I started after my parents, after a while, it got really old writing something and then getting beaten up for it the next day.
Yeah. 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 Wow.
So, but there is so much power in just speaking it and writing it. We were just talking about that with who was, it was can't think of her name, but she was doing like, she does energy healing. And
Mm,
she said, just write it down. You got to write it down and
right. Yeah.
make that connection. And that's really good advice. Really, really good advice.
Yeah, because I mean, I could say, oh, go see a therapist, but I know in my own experience, I've had five, and not all of them are helpful. Then you feel like you're reciting the same thing over and over and you give up. And I don't want to give that advice to somebody, to tell somebody. So for me, the best thing I did just from my own experience is to write it something down, to release it out of your body onto
Hmm.
paper. And then do what you were suggesting is to either burn it, crumple it up, but just to put your thoughts down on paper, and your paper is the receiver of the
Yes.
information, and
It's like,
just, yeah.
yeah, and you made a very valid point of getting it out of your body because I think that is with the people that have that kind. I mean, we didn't even get into the physical manifestation of what you were
Yeah,
going through, but to keep that kind of pain and grief inside of you and not have a way to get it out of your body
yeah,
cannot be good for your body.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know it very well. I know it very well. I wish that, looking back, that I had written more on a daily basis. I used to only write like maybe once or twice a week, but I wish I had done it more on a daily basis, even if it's just a sentence. So, action puts things into motion, and it makes you feel alive and not be stuck in your depression or feel locked in to the mode that you're in.
Absolutely. And we were talking about like the five stages of grief and I want to hear your take on this because I personally do not believe there is any timeline in grief. I don't care if
Right.
something happened to you when you were 3. If you have not dealt with it and you're still 57, you're still grieving that if you have not dealt with it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I 1000% agree with you that there's no timeline. I remember my ex would say to me when we were in couples counseling, well, you need to heal faster so that our relationship could get better. And that was just the most heartbreaking thing to me because I wasn't ready. Like, you can't put somebody on a 5-step program to heal. If somebody's trying to sell you that, you can go through those steps, but it doesn't mean that after you've read that book or did those exercises that it's going to immediately happen. It doesn't, because you have to, one, realize that it's a pain that you're experiencing, first of all. Where is
Hmm.
it coming from? What's the roots of it? Like I said, it took me 20 years to even realize how I was operating. Like, I
Right.
literally was on muscle memory the entire time period. Like on paper, visually and financially, I was successful, but inside I hated myself, Tammy.
Yeah.
So,
Ugh,
yeah.
bless your heart. Yeah, and that's why when we were talking about like those cliches, like I can picture, I'm
Oh my
picturing some of the
God.
things that people, and I can do the same thing. I had a foster sister who shot herself, and I can remember people going, yeah, it was 6 months ago. Get over it. What do you mean get over
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
didn't have
there's
any like I didn't even deal. I know I don't even think I ever dealt with that until like I was like 40,
yeah.
and I was 16 in the same house with her, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah, for me it was avoiding the pain that I was experiencing, the heartbreaks that I was experiencing, and then I try to shove it away and lock and key and exile those emotions as much as possible.
hmm
Um, but then it also prevented me from being able to fully open up to anybody, to fully love somebody, and allowing. I think that contributed to the downfall of my marriage too, is because I wasn't open enough yet and wasn't ready to be open enough yet to receive the love again,
right,
because I was so scared.
right.
And yeah.
Mm. So you mentioned something in one of our questions that we had talked about a gold star syndrome. Is that the perfectionism that you're talking about?
That is, yeah, I really
Okay, that's what
relied
I
on
thought.
that. Keeping
Hmm.
myself busy just to keep my mind off of things, and overbooked calendar, like that was my my thing that I resorted to keep myself from feeling any emotions at all. So my
Yep.
therapist had said, when I started working with him about 4 or 5 years ago, so Helen, you came in here and you had like three feelings: happy, annoyed, angry, sad, and that was pretty much it.
Right.
I discovered disappointment. I discovered embarrassment and shame, and really, obviously, I felt those things, but sitting in it and allowing myself to go through those motions and working through it in a healthy way instead of being combustible or extremely reactive and projecting it onto other people. That's what it was. But yeah, the gold star syndrome, that was me. I was just striving for the next dollar, like looking for money, recognition, acknowledgments, awards, things like that. And that
Hmm.
drove my life. And I became robotic and, like I said, just muscle memory of doing, 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 but not really fixing
Being.
what was inside of me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very normal with when people go through addiction recovery too.
Mm.
And it's so funny because people will be like, "Well, I'm not drinking," but now you've picked up three jobs and you're working 22 hours a day. Like you're
Yeah,
now just that's your addiction now. Like you
that's right.
literally have just moved it into that because it's a coping mechanism to block everything
Exactly.
out.
That's
So
right.
you might as well just go back to drinking because at least you don't have to work three jobs
The
or
addiction
something.
shifted to something else, right? Like I was addicted to work. It kept my mind busy enough to think about what was really internally happening.
Yep. When my mom died, I was the same way. I literally was
Mm.
in high school and just out of high school and literally working two, three jobs. I was 24 hours a day. And I even find, I mean, I'm 57 now, but I find that when I start getting stressed out, it's like, what do? I work. I keep, it's like,
Yeah.
because at least I feel like, well, at least I'm doing something productive.
That's right. See, so you understand what I mean? It's like, oh, at least I'm doing something with my life and not like, sitting crying in my closet, like, come on, Helen, get yourself together. Like that was the
Yep.
dialogue I was telling myself.
Hmm. But we all know it's okay to not be okay, not be okay. We just need someone to validate that and be like, yes, it's take the time, heal yourself. So, wow, that's
It's like you said, it's just so easy to go back into that coping mechanism. You don't it For me, I have to really pause and catch myself, like, is this an opportunity that I'm taking on, or is this really a distraction from
right,
something I'm trying to avoid, an emotion I'm trying to avoid?
right. And if you know ultimately, like I tell people, if you know ultimately like what your main goal is and what your main end goal is, which to me, is peace, is just ultimate inner peace.
That's what I
And
want.
it's yeah, I mean, and that's what we all deserve. And that's what I think we're all striving for at some point is just peace in our mind, in our body, in our relationships and everything, just peace. And
Yes,
so when you do those things like, oh, I'm going to pick up this extra task, I'm going to do that. It's like, is that really getting me there? Or like you said, is that a band-aid? Is
right.
it, is
Is
it
it a
just buying
distraction
me enough?
tactic?
Yep. It's a distraction. Is it's just buying me in a couple more days, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah,
eh,
I thought it was like, oh, do things that make you happy. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do things that give me peace
yeah.
and calm. I don't want to overload my schedule. I want consecutive days of not, I mean, stress is part of life and daily activity, but like how many consecutive days can I have of like just peace where I'm not, bouncing from one thing to the next, to the task this and task that,
Hmm.
and learning to move a little bit slower too.
Right. Exactly. Which is in this day and age is next to
It's,
impossible.
it's,
But
it
you
seems very
really
hard. Hmm.
Yep. In this day and age, you really have to have some self-worth to be able to feel like you're deserving enough to slow down. And that's hard because we're in a hustle bustle world and it's those personal boundaries of, saying no, not taking on those extra things.
Yeah, so to me, my measurement of that is like how many, do I have, how much time can I block off to watch TV? Like, because I used to think watching TV was lazy. That was from my upbringing too, though. That wasn't from loss or anything. That was, something
Mm.
drilled in me where you can't be lazy, you have to be productive. And watching TV is you're not doing what you need to be doing.
Where
So
sometimes it's just a mental break.
I know
I
I
mean,
watch a lot
sometimes
of
literally it
reality
does.
shows now.
My husband picks like a show. Like right now, he's on the Love Boat. You ever watch the Love Boat?
No, I'm
And
watching Love
I
is
mean,
Blind
every day I
now.
come home and he's a fisherman. He gets up super early in the morning. He comes home, he sits on his couch and he turns on the Love Boat. And I'm like, okay, that's what we're doing. And that's kind of our just, I, and part of me is like, okay, if I was stressed out, it would probably be a bad thing. But that is my like, ooh, like
Yeah,
we're just gonna watch some stupid, frivolous
yeah, something.
1980s,
Yeah,
90s show, but
yeah.
it is funny. But then again, you have to be careful for the people out there listening, like the doom scrolling.
Oh
Like
my
that
gosh,
is
yes.
that is a form of dissociation. You literally are just, I can't deal. I'm
Mhm.
overwhelmed. I'm gonna just do that.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
but at the same, like sometimes 5 minutes, that's why I say set some boundaries, like 5, 10 minutes, like you can
Yep.
do that.
The
Don't, if
timer.
you're sitting there 6 hours later and you're still scrolling, maybe we got some issues, but
Yeah.
you know, you
Yeah.
do need that mental break. I mean, you do.
Yeah, I for sure, for somebody who is a workaholic like me, any type A personalities out there, like watching TV is okay every now and again.
Hmm.
Taking a mental break from making decisions
Yep.
for an hour or two, I had to rewire myself and relearn that it's okay and reteach myself that I'm not a lazy person. I'm just taking a mental break right now and
Yep.
do something that I can laugh. And one thing that my therapist told me to do when we first started working together was stop reading self-help books and start reading books that I actually enjoy. And that was even really hard for me to do. I'm like, enjoy? Well, don't I need to be like working on myself? He's like,
Yeah, learning something or
learning something. He's like, fine, if you love reading. I knew I loved reading. He knew that too. He said, but try to find something that's entertaining, just in pure entertainment and see what it feels like. And that was my introduction to experiencing joy again and not trying to
hmm,
work on myself and progressing all the time.
yeah. How'd it work for you?
It's working great. I haven't read well, I've read one parenting book. I don't know if you consider that as self-help, but I've read one parenting book, but lately I've been reading a lot of memoirs and just fiction.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and really, and that exercise has really forced me to be more present.
Yep. That's a good, for the people out there listening. That is actually very good advice because I agree. I go to the bookstore and I want to go on. I'm going on a cruise and I like go to the bookstore and I'm like, oh, let me get something so I can sit and relax. Well, I'm reading about the brain. Like it's not
Yeah.
relaxing. It's not.
Or
It's not
time
entertaining.
management or
Yeah,
something.
it's like teaching me what to do and I'm taking notes and I'm highlighting and I'm like, this is not
Yes.
relaxing.
But how
But
much of it do you actually implement? You
right,
know, at the end of
right,
the day, like you read
right.
20 self-help professional development books, but how much of it do you actually implement? Like, does it make you feel better at the end of the day?
Right. It's like motivational speeches. You listen to them and you're like, woo. And then the next day you're like, yeah, no, I don't feel like doing that.
Exactly. So yes, I'm trying to do things that ground me and make me be more present and in the now. Um,
Right.
Finding things that I enjoy and experiencing joy again, because I haven't experienced that emotion in so long.
Yeah. Well, and when you said it clicked to me when you said your therapist was like, okay, you have a couple emotions and they're happy, sadness. I noticed you didn't say joy because there's a huge difference between that superficial happy and
That's right.
pure, true, in
That's
your
right.
heart joy.
I didn't have joy. I
No.
didn't have joy. Zero. I had happiness is a fleeting emotion or
Yes.
experience. That's how I perceive it. So I don't look for happy moments. Peace can be, that's what I look for.
Yeah.
Homeostasis of peace.
Yes.
That's like a real state of being.
Yes. Agreed. Because yeah, you can be happy. You're happy with it. You don't have to go to work because it's raining or whatever it is, but
Right.
pure joy is when you're laying there rubbing your puppy's tummy and your heart is melting.
Yeah, yeah.
That is joy. That's what we're
That's right.
we're looking for more of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had
So
no
you,
idea what that was.
me either for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Long time.
Yeah.
So, well, good. So you know what it looks like now and you get to do
I
it. Everyone
do.
experience it.
Yeah. Yeah, like when I was a kid. before my world turned upside down. I loved reading. Like Harry Potter was my go-to book when I
Mhm.
was, in middle school, high school. I just loved reading all the time, and it was just entertaining stuff like science fiction, anything about aliens, fantasy. That was what I was into. At what point did I stop doing that and switch to self-help books, and like all professional development books? That was when everything in my world just started to shift. And I felt like I needed to focus more on achieving, achieving, achieving,
Mhm.
because I thought that would bring me joy and happiness. But it
Right.
was,
No. And now I'm even like, if I'm going to read a self-help or a some quote unquote, now I do make my, like, I will get like a spiritual book, like that
Mhm.
is like, the, you know, Deepak, and I'll be like, oh yeah, he's got some good ones. Like, and just because the people that emphasize the joy, not
Yeah,
the people that emphasize the, grind till you die and then,
yeah,
leave a legacy. It's, no. So you're writing now and you're speaking, and does your
yes.
main job revolve around that, or do you still have your corporate?
No, no, I still have my business. I'm a financial advisor, and so I work
Okay.
with a lot of clients. So my day to day, I make a lot of, investment decisions on behalf of my clients, and I do a lot of math throughout the day. So that's why I watch, Love is Blind on Netflix right now, just to get my
Right.
just to get my mind off of like the technical
Right.
stuff that I deal with on a daily basis. But even in my writing that I've been publishing more publicly and just challenging myself to speak and write about this stuff, like this is what really sparks
Hmm.
excitement in me. Like I want to feel that nervousness, like an excitable nervousness. Even coming on this podcast talking about this, like I want to make a larger impact some way,
Yeah.
somehow. And I
And
hope
I can tell because it lights you up. That's
it
what,
does.
it does. I can tell.
Like a lot of my peers in the same, they're type A like me, perfectionist, like just work, 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 work. In our private conversations, they're like, Helen, I am so miserable. And they're making $1 million in their business.
Right.
On paper, they're very successful, and you would think like, oh, what do they have to complain about? But they're super depressed.
Hmm.
And that's where I was, and I
Yeah.
had to really pull myself out of it. So hopefully, this is my new life's work, an extension of my identity. I don't think I would have been able to do this had I not gone to therapy and taken it seriously and made that one connection that really saved my life, to be honest with you.
Mm. Yeah. No, it makes all the difference in the world. And like I said, you see it. You see the millionaires that are just like, I'm just freaking miserable.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's the people in the corporate world usually. And then you meet the people that are the, spiritual coaches, and they're loving life and they're like, woohoo.
Yeah.
But they still too, because of usually their past, because the wounded healers, they're out there everywhere. Everybody's out there, a wounded healer trying
Yeah.
to help people get to where they are quicker. There's still that propensity for burnout and overwhelm. And
Hmm.
it doesn't matter who you are or what level you're at anywhere, it's
No.
there. That threat is always there if you don't take time for self-care and love and finding that person that validates you, so important.
Yeah, as cheesy as it sounds, like inner peace is what I'm really looking for. I didn't understand at all what that meant or what contributes to that or what it looked like for me. But that's really what it's about because inside of me, I was extremely volatile. Like I was just an angry internal person, at God, at the world, at my family, like at everything, because it felt like things were just out of control.
Out of control, and you weren't getting what you needed to make it feel
Exactly.
comfortable or to process it even. You
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
weren't.
Yeah, I just felt so unseen in my relationships. Um, and a lot of it, I don't want to blame myself, but I contribute to that. It takes two to tango in a relationship. And I think it was because I had so like thick walls, fortresses built around me that I was unable to let anybody in to give me the love that I needed because I didn't want
Right.
to see it.
Yeah. And it's very easy to, and I'm not saying you played the victim game, but it's very easy to be like, I am because the way I am because.
Hmm. Hmm.
And instead of being like, wow, I am the way, it's like I say, who was it, Benjamin Franklin, that said, with awareness comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
You didn't know, but then once you know, kind of, okay, this makes sense, why, then it is your kind of your
Mhm.
responsibility to
Yeah.
flip it and start
Mhm.
acting differently and making better choices. And at the same time, without beating yourself up about the way you were, because we don't know what we don't know.
Well, yeah, that's the self-forgiveness piece that comes into
Hmm.
play, and I'm starting to learn that too slowly and what that really means and
Yep.
stop being so hard on myself. I think on paper I'm successful because I've been very vigilant and hard on myself, but I can't generalize that methodology of being hard on myself in everything,
No.
and beating myself up, you know.
Well, and I tell people the best exercise you can always do is in every decision when you have that internal critic sitting on your shoulder,
Mhm.
every time you nip it in the bud and, like you said, question it, challenge that, but put yourself in your best friend's position.
Mhm.
Like, if you go, oh God, Tammy, that was so stupid. Why do you always do this? Just think, okay, Tammy, if you were your own best friend, would you be angry, or would you be like, hey, it's okay. You're human. Like, let's get past this.
Yeah,
That's how you would act. So
yeah,
start putting yourself in your own best friend's position. Like, be your own best friend
yeah.
in not just on paper, but in every choice, every time the rubber hits the road and you have to make a decision based off that subconscious programming, which is that little voice in your mind that's
Hmm.
saying, Tammy, you're lazy. Tammy, you don't deserve to sit there for an hour and watch TV. Just say, if I was someone I loved, would I be mad at they were watching TV? No.
Yeah,
And it's such a hard concept, but yeah, it's like I tell my clients, you have to nip it. The minute you have that thought, challenge it. Why am I saying that? Would I say that to my someone I loved?
yeah.
And most likely you wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really hard to do, to quiet that voice instead of building it
Hmm.
up. You know,
Hmm.
it's very challenging. So,
It is. It is. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I could literally talk to you forever about all this stuff. So,
yeah.
do you write, you speak, do you work, can people reach out to you? Do you have
Yes. So,
talk about it?
yeah, in this space, in loss and grief, I host monthly meetups. So the next one
Okay.
is October 22nd, but you can go to my website, HelenNgo.com, and it's all on there. And you can sign up for my 8-part email series where I take you through the steps that I have taken to start the healing process. Again, there's no timeline. It's just gentle weekly reminders for 8 weeks. So it's an 8-week healing journey. It's free, and the monthly meetups as well. And my writing is on Substack called Thoughts After Therapy.
Okay, perfect. I love it. And I will put all that in the show notes so people can get hold of you and reach out and take your course. And I mean, and it's the silent strugglers. Those are the people that we want to reach, the people that are struggling and miserable, but they look so like this on the outside, this great big smile, and
Yeah,
inside they got this fist going through their stomach. I know those people, like I've been there, where you have this
yeah,
big smile, but if someone says, hey, what do you want to do? You're like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't even know myself. Like there's so many silent strugglers out there. And God bless you for being one of those that are trying to reach them.
yeah. So that's what the monthly meetups are about. I mean, I don't do any coaching at all because I'm not a professional healer. And I don't want to be one of those, self-proclaimed self-help gurus by any means. But my monthly meetups is really just to talk about what's going on, just making a single connection for me to listen to you, or with other people, strangers. So for some reason, for me, I feel more comfortable talking to strangers than I do talking about the stuff with my own family and friends, even.
That's very normal, actually.
Like I didn't even realize that about myself until I'm like, yeah, I would love to talk about this with strangers. Like, tell me about your story. I don't want to have any bias, at all. Like, tell me what happened. Like, why are you, what is your loss? What are you going through right now? So really it's just a monthly meetup of hearing people out, not coaching, not advice giving, because that was the last thing I wanted, was like more advice given to me because I was so overwhelmed already, but just really be a listening ear. That's all it is. Mhm.
God bless you. I love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Love it. And I
Thank
will
you,
put, like
Tammy.
I said, I'll put that in the show notes. Now, you're not off the hook yet. First of all,
Okay.
thank you for coming. This has been absolutely amazing. Second of all, lastly, I guess, if you had one piece of advice or words
Mm.
of wisdom or something tangible that people could take with them today, what would it be?
I would say go to Marshall's or TJ Maxx and buy a $5 journal and start writing your thoughts in it.
I was wondering where that was going. It's like, it's like Marshall or TJ Maxx. Okay.
That's
Yes.
where I get my pretty journals.
And that's actually, I get my, yeah, I guess I do get a lot of them at TJ Maxx. You're right. Um, Great advice. You're right. Just start writing, start getting it out of your body,
Yeah.
start
Putting it on
saying
paper.
it, just putting it out there, putting it
Yeah.
on paper. It is so powerful.
Even if you don't have anybody that you can talk about it with, any of the pain that you're going through, writing down your emotions and just even if you're angry, like it's okay to put it on paper. So that's really my one piece of actionable advice that I think is very practical.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Tammy.
And for everybody else out there listening, you have an amazing week and go check out Helen's stuff. Absolutely amazing. Know that you can reach out. You can reach out to her. You can reach out to me, whatever you want to do. Just know that you're 100% worth every step you take in the right direction and that your peace, your joy, your happiness is out there for the taking. You just got to go find it. It's out there. So thank you all and you have a blessed week.